All right, so we have a really special guest on the channel today. This is Mr. Sam Kaufman, a longtime student of mine, former high school athlete of mine. Now he's up at Umpqua Community College. We were talking about their rival a little earlier off camera. So, Sam, how are you doing today? I know you guys are getting ready to start the season, and
good, feeling good.
Yeah, what are you sitting up to now?
I've kind of been going in and out of it, but on the good days, usually low 90s.
Okay, that's good. That's good to rock. So I want to start kind of where we started in the beginning, like when I first met you, when we first started training together. But so before started training in the program, what were some of the biggest challenges or frustrations you had in your baseball training and performance prior to when we started working together?
Definitely just like overall lack of strength. I feel I probably started training with you my sophomore year of high school. Mm-hmm. That's when you guys came in. But yeah, I was definitely just a lot, just overall weaker and just lacked a lot of arm strength. And I think that first summer that I took off and didn't play any travel ball or anything and just came to fast all summer and did a lot of velo and just worked on arm strength really helped a lot.
Do you think you can share a specific example of like any frustration or like a specific moment where you felt stuck or maybe doubted what you obviously have turned into? I hit him with the tough questions today.
I mean, definitely like earlier in the high school, just feeling like I just had no power over the batter velo wise. Like I just felt like anything I threw in the zone was going to get pounded. And that's definitely pretty frustrating.
Yeah, right. So, but prior to beginning your work with me, what beyond the obvious that I was your high school coach and I kind of gave you a sweetheart deal, what made you choose my program, the FAST program, over any other program in the state of Colorado? Because there are plenty, especially now in the area that we are in, that you also had very easy access to as well.
I just kind of felt like it was super personalized. Like I didn't feel like part of a group or like, I don't know how to describe it, but it just felt like it was, when I went, it was, the attention was on me, like not to sound selfish, but like I was going there to work on myself. I wasn't getting worked on as a group of kids, or I wasn't just another like customer of you guys. I was part of FAST, and I felt like I got a full personalized experience from it.
Were you skeptical of the process initially? And if so, what was like the moment that like, oh, this is legit what we're doing?
I don't think I was ever skeptical to say, but I feel like definitely after that first summer where I made really good progress with you guys, I really started to see what it could do for me and how like real it was.
So what was the most notable, I mean, you and I can go back and forth on what was the most notable improvement in your performance since starting that program? Like what was the first inkling, or when you first like, oh, everything that I just did like was 100% worth it, and you know, now I'm this completely different player that I had never been before?
I feel like we'd been training for a while, and we took my first deload week off, and on the deload week I hit my first ever 90 on the mound. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I just saw then that what I was doing for the past few months has really been working.
A little bit of an eye opener.
Yeah.
Or just like even the day that you're not supposed to throw hard, you're like, oh, I threw way harder than I ever had before.
Yep.
So let's go into the spring, like after that first summer where we were just started training. That summer, like let's go into the spring, like probably the spring that kind of changed your life a little bit. Where, you know, what were some specific, you know, stats or milestones or accomplishments that you achieved in that spring after we started training together?
So this would have been junior year. I broke my school strikeout record. I did some other things. I'm kind of forgetting them right now.
You did so many things that year.
I think I made I was all conference. I don't think I got all state. I think I might have gotten a mention.
I think you got a mention.
Yeah.
But you got conference pitcher of the year that year. You got that. And
We went to the playoffs for the first time in a long
we
time.
went to the playoffs and got royally screwed over by the umpires
Yeah,
because the 32 seed can't beat the 1 seed, right?
it's a hard bet.
But all right, so I want to go into what was the game. What do you think was the game that was the turning point for you?
I feel like it was the very first game of that spring season. It was
I think it was Evergreen, yeah. Evergreen, yeah.
And I think, it was the very first game, and I went 6 innings, 10 plus Ks, somewhere out there.
Yeah.
And I was just, compared to how I was pitching previously, that was just a massive jump.
Yeah.
Performance wise.
You just kind of felt like you were a completely different person.
Yeah.
From the spring prior. Nice. So, how is our approach to training different than anything that you have tried before?
I don't know if I could really speak much to that because honestly, I haven't really trained with much else. I mean, compared to what I do at college, it's pretty similar, lifts wise and then throwing wise. But I just don't know if I could really compare it to much else.
So okay, so then instead of comparing it, but what stood out about the methods that we utilize, or comparing it, not even comparing it, but like what stood out to you the most about how we go about things, 1 in the program, 2 in the facility, and you feel sets us apart from any other place?
I feel like the thing I noticed was it's not like not an ignorance, like not babying your arm, I used to think like throw hard once a week and then you got to treat it nicely. But I really learned through you guys that you got to treat your arm how you want it to be. You got to build it up strength wise. And then to go with that, you guys also have a very big importance on recovery and the programs you guys run it through to help recover after throwing.
So do you feel like like you say, it's not a generic where take care of your arm, throw only hard once a week. It's a little more like you train your arm like you train any other muscle.
Yeah.
Right. It's, it's tough to grow big, gigantic quads like you have, but only lifting once, training quads once a week. Right.
Yeah.
Like it's a thing you got to do multiple times per week. So what do you think, what was the process like for you during the program? Like what was the, like you start seeing the progress you were making, but what about maybe the community, or what was something like everybody you ever got to meet that also trains here that sets it apart for you?
Yeah, I feel like if you come in on like a pretty routine schedule, like I did some of those summers, you start seeing the same people every day when you're coming in to train with. And it introduced me to a bunch of cool guys, some on my level, some a lot above my level, which was cool to be able to talk to them and see them throw. And it's nice to be able to train with someone at the same time, just because it kind of, having someone to compete with, I think pushes yourself to go a little farther.
Was there anything to the process that you found, like, it kind of blew your mind a little bit? Like you didn't think that this was something that was available in baseball training, at least before you started training, and then just like, now that you've experienced it, just like, I don't know how anybody could train without it.
I mean, it's going to sound really simple, but just the track, man, like just having something that can tell you that much information about one pitch is pretty insane. Mm-hmm. And yeah, throwing without it feels like a big difference. Not that I'm throwing blind, but it's really helpful to know all those kind of numbers so you can help develop based off that.
Right. It gives you a ramp, or it gives you an idea of where you are and where you can improve.
Yeah.
It gives you a better opportunity to know who you are as a pitcher that you maybe never had access to before.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. What do you think, or how has this program, beyond just the numbers and the performance benchmarks that you've achieved, impacted you? You know, like, so like maybe a mindset thing, or is it a confidence thing? Is it, you know, or how you approach challenges? Like, what's something that how this program has really impacted you just beyond the game of baseball?
I feel like it really developed like a work ethic with me because, I mean, we're at you guys' old location. It was like a 45-minute drive for me. But I would come out 3, 4, 5 times a week. And I think that just really taught me like how much of your life and your day needs to be dedicated to this if you want to like keep getting better at it and keep furthering yourself in it.
How have you utilized that mindset shift now over at college?
Yeah, just like it doesn't end at practice. Like I'll go to practice, do what I'm doing there, but when I come home, I need to do recovery stuff that I usually would have time to do at like your guys' place. Or I need to do med ball workouts, but just every day you have to do something.
All right, so this might be an interesting answer for you. What was your proudest moment or biggest breakthrough during or after all of our training we've done together? What do you feel like was your big milestone? Just like, fuck yeah, I did it.
I feel like just because it was such a big number when I pulled down the 3-ounce ball for 105, it's not really relevant to much, but
Hey, it's a milestone.
Yeah, seeing that big of a number is pretty fun.
How did so describe that moment? Like, how did it feel, or you know, how did it validate everything that you had done prior?
I mean, yeah, it was really exciting just to see that what you're doing is actually worth it, and that if you keep doing it, you could go even farther than that.
So, what feedback from coaches, teammates, you know, I know you've been in communication with some pretty decently sized programs, but what kind of feedback have you received since we've been working together?
I've definitely had, multiple coaches, especially during high school when I made the bigger jumps I made, just noticed, I mean, one, the size I'd been putting on and just the velo that came with it. I would say that's the majority of, yeah.
So like what was the best compliment you ever got since we started training, where you just like, okay, yeah. I know you're a humble dude. It's okay. You can brag about yourself a little bit.
I don't know if I have anything specific off my mind, but just, yeah, if anytime like you're pitching and a coach is like telling the batters to time it up or something like that. Something like that.
All right, I can give an example. You've had some conversations with some pretty big programs up in the Oregon area. What was like the first call when you had that first communication with one of those big programs? Was that like a validating moment where you're like, oh my God, I might get these big marquee programs?
Yeah, it definitely felt good to know that that's a possibility of somewhere I could go. Like just knowing that it's not impossible for me to play at that level.
What was the biggest specific change that you saw pre-training versus post-training that you got? Like, what's the biggest compliment you got where just like, oh, I didn't know you could do that, Sam? You got so many you can't even remember all of them.
Yeah, I don't know if I can come up with anything off the top of my head. It's probably just, something along the lines of velo.
Mm-hmm. The big velo jumps, just like I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, so switching gears here then. What would you say to someone who was considering this program? You know, about what would you tell them about the value that you received and the training and the results that they can expect?
I would say it's definitely worth like the time to do it, but you have to be willing to want to do it. You have to want to put in that much time. And if you are, it's very worth it. It's very rewarding. The amount of resources you get are anything you want is basically at your hands. And so it's up to you to use them, but it's definitely worth it to come use them.
if you were talking to maybe a fellow athlete who is on the fence about should they join this program, how would you explain why this program is the way it is and why does it work?
I feel like I would definitely talk to them about the coaches there and that just how personalized it is, like how they're going to zero in on you and your specific individualized issues and how they help you with that instead of like somewhere like a big facility where you're just going to like follow a generic program that they've sent an email to you with.
Right. It's a little more detailed. Well, so like explain the process to someone who maybe doesn't know it. Like, what do we start with? What's the first thing that we always do? Or, what are how do we identify the areas of development for you guys?
So I remember some of the first things you did is like a mobility test and you come in and you just kind of see where you're at, like mobility and flexibility wise, to see where your specific issues might be. And then from there, you can kind of start working on what drills you need to start working on, what areas you're lacking.
And then what do we do next? Come on, you've been in the program for 3 years now. You should know how to do this.
If I remember right, usually start with a bullpen just to see where your mechanics are at. Again, see where you can improve individually. Mm-hmm. And then from there, you can discuss your goals of what you want to get from being here.
Yeah.
Whether if you want to gain velo and start a velo program, or if you're trying to develop your off speeds and whatnot.
Nice. All right. So what was to you the most surprising, what surprised you the most about working with me or through the program?
I mean, yeah, I just felt, again, I feel like I'm...
Or maybe even he's like, what was the thing that you didn't expect to have as much impact as it ended up having?
I feel like the thing that had a lot of impact was just the attention to the aftercare. Because I had never been big on that. And I remember getting done with doing pull downs and just kind of getting ready to leave or just go lift or something. And Cole's yelling at me from the cage, make sure we're doing them aftercare. Check your phone to look at the aftercare. And I feel like that helped me a lot with any kind of arm pain I'd been having or stuff like that.
Yeah, anybody who knows me knows I am a massive stickler for that. If that's the one thing you can control, you better control that. What is... All right. How do you feel that this program prepared you for high-pressure situations like games and the showcases you ended up doing and then obviously excelling at?
I mean, we did like multiple like high-pressure scenarios there at Fast where you'd be in like the middle of a bullpen, like you need to get this pitch or else, or you need to do this or else. Like,
I never gave you that kind of an ultimatum.
Well, never like an or else, but like put yourself in the scenario of
right,
do or die.
Like, okay, so I think about the first thing that comes to my mind is that PBR, what Super 60 bullshit you did at game day. But like, it's a big moment, right? Where like you're a top athlete in the state of Colorado for pitching or for baseball, and you had never done anything like that before. That was kind of your first like exposure to, showcase baseball. Like, what was your mindset going into that? But then, how did you counteract that with I've trained for this. I know how to deal with this stuff.
I mean, yeah, going to Fast definitely helps with the fact, like you said, being around a bunch of the other like top level athletes, because it's what I've been doing at Fast for the last few months is just being around a lot of top level guys, doing live ABs with them, throwing with them. So that really helped to take like any nervousness around that off. And
or even like in a game, like what would you feel in your high school career was the biggest game that you were like, it's a massive moment, but I know that I can excel and I know I can get us, a W?
You
'Cause
know,
I'll tell you mine if you tell me yours.
even though it didn't happen and we didn't win, but it definitely helped with the mindset. I was going in to play Valor my senior year.
Care to elaborate?
Oh, yeah, no, they've always been a super good school, and they got some really good guys on their team, and just going in there just with the confidence of I can do this, and I don't care who's on the other side, who's in the batter's box.
So I was going to say it was that Valor game, or it was the playoff game against Regis, where you didn't care, you didn't give two fucks that it was Regis Jesuit High School, the number one seed in the whole tournament, and you pitched your ass off. Got a little unlucky on some things, but you controlled the zone probably one of the best, if not the best, I had ever seen you do it. You were not scared of anybody on that lineup. You were not scared of, and you were like, you're looking at kid Oregon's going to write that kid out 3 times. So that, to me, that was the moment I'm like, all right, he gets it, and everything that we had done working up to that moment was completely worth it. Where you stared down the barrel of the number one team in the state of Colorado, and you're like, I can beat every single one of you, and we're gonna go get this W. Like I feel that we should have, but baseball is baseball, right? What is one piece of advice or insight from the training that stuck with you that continues to help you today?
Just consistency, really. Like, I noticed the biggest jumps and improvements I made was when I'd been coming in on a very consistent basis. And then if I had days where wasn't very often, but if I did not come in a day, or if I just really didn't go very hard one day, I'd notice that the next day would be not as good. And then take a while, you got to revamp up from your lack of consistency. And I definitely noticed that here today. Just the more consistent I am with my work off the field, my mobility, my med ball workouts on my own, all that, it all leads up to what you're going to do the next week.
Right. So just, make sure that you show up and do the work that's given to you. You and I've worked for a long time. Here's the roadmap. Now go follow it, and to the best of your abilities.
Yeah.
All right. For athletes who are struggling to see results or feeling overlooked, what would you tell them about working within the program or with the program?
You said athletes who are
feeling like they struggle to see results, or they feel maybe overlooked. They're pretty solid, but they're not getting the exact exposure that they would like.
I've always been a huge fan of the quote you guys have on that massive banner in there. I might butcher it here. It's don't work to be seen, work to have something worth being seen.
It's the goal is to have something worth showing, or not to be seen, but have something worth showing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've always loved that quote, because I think it's just, you can worry and worry and worry about where you're going to go to school and who's going to see you, but it really doesn't matter unless you have what they want. So it's just best to focus just on what you're doing and trying to become the best pitcher, version, hitter, whatever of yourself you can.
All right, so let me ask you this, because you brought it up. You kind of asked on it a little bit, but what do you feel is that level that you're going to you feel you're going to see get the most exposure or get the most looks? When you reached what level do you feel that you reached that you're like, oh, now everyone's kind of paying attention to me?
The bigger the velo number is definitely always eye candy for coaches. The bigger number you can tell them you throw, the more likely they're going to be interested in you. So I think finally when I broke that 90 mark, I started getting a bit more looks from schools. And then also performance. Yeah, performance. That junior year where I had all the strikeouts and a low ERA, I definitely got a lot more contacts than my senior year where I had less strikeouts and a bigger ERA.
I'm sorry about that. That was not my fault. But okay. So, what role do you feel that the individualized approach or the use of the advanced technology that we use played into your progress?
Yeah, like I was saying with the TrackMan, I like using that technology and just being able to see that is a lot different than just throwing a bullpen with someone behind you just kind of looking at it and telling you what they see. Like you're getting the exact metrics and you know, like if you try to switch your grip from this to this, did it really work? And that can help tell you.
There's a little more like significant proof that what you're doing is working, right?
Yeah.
It's a little easier to consume that what it is I'm trying to do is actually what I'm doing, or is it not what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So last question. I held you here a little bit longer than I thought we would, but we get there. Finally, what do you think? I mean, we touched on this a little bit, but what do you think is the biggest impact that this program has had on you? And for anybody that's on the fence, truly on the fence about buying into this program and what it can do for them, what would you tell them about how it's affected you, how it's affected your trajectory of your baseball career, the opportunities you've gotten, the milestones, the athletic achievements you've garnered since your training has begun here?
I mean, yeah, definitely from like a physical aspect, it's brought me a long way. I probably jumped over 6 to 8 miles per hour off the mound since I started training there, and just way better as a pitcher physically. But on the mental side, like it's just made me a completely different person work ethic wise. Like I've learned what consistency really means, like what it takes to actually get better. It kind of just teaches you what it takes, I feel like.
Nice. So anybody, when they're on the like, what's that last little like, oh, I don't know, Sam. Like, is it really going to work for me? What would you say to them?
I mean, I would say it's up to you. Like they have everything you need to get better, and then are you going to use that resource?
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you, Sam, for hopping on. I know it's a little late night, and you probably gotta go do some homework or something like that. So I really appreciate you hopping on, and obviously, taking the time to do this. So I really appreciate it, my guy.
Of course.
So.